Hello, welcome back to News of Asha. Today is August 18th, 2023. Let's see what's happening in the world today. Hurricane Hillary intensifies off Mexico's Pacific coast. Mexico City. Hurricane Hillary strengthened into a major Category 3 storm on Thursday as it barreled through the Pacific towards Mexico's Baja California Peninsula, packing winds up to 195 kilometers per hour, the US National Hurricane Center said. It was moving west-northwest at a near 22 km per hour and was forecast to approach the peninsula, which includes the popular tourist area of Las Cabos, over the weekend, the center said. Additional strengthening is forecast for the next days and the storm likely to become a Category 4 on Saturday, it added. Hillary is expected to dump 7.6 to 15 centimeters of rain across parts of Baja California Peninsula through Sunday night. Flash floodings will be possible in some areas, the NHC warned, as well as life-threatening rip current conditions. Tropical storm conditions are expected in the south of Baja California by late Friday and are possible further up the peninsula by early Saturday. The heavy rainfall was expected to impact the southwestern United States from Friday through early next week, peaking on Sunday and Monday. Looks like this weekend is going to be a very rainy day for the Americas. I hope everyone can get to safety and stay away from the beaches until all this passes. US approves sending F-16s to Ukraine from Denmark and Netherlands. Washington. The United States has approved sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine from Denmark and the Netherlands to defend against Russian invaders as soon as pilot training is completed, a US official said on Thursday. NATO members Denmark and the Netherlands have been leading international efforts to train pilots as well as support staff, maintain aircraft and ultimately enable Ukraine to obtain F-16s for use in its war with Russia. Secretary of State Antony Blinken sent letters to his Danish and Dutch counterparts assuring them that the request would be approved, the US official said. I am writing to express the United States' full support for both the transfers of F-16 fighter aircraft to Ukraine and for the training of Ukrainian pilots by qualified F-16 instructors, Blinken said in a letter to the two officials, a copy of which was seen by Reuters. US President Joe Biden endorsed training programs for Ukraine pilots on F-16s in May. In addition to training in Denmark, a training center was to be set up in Romania. US officials have privately said that F-16 jets would have been of little help to Ukraine in its current counter-offensive and will not be a game-changer when they eventually arrive, given Russia's air defense systems and contested skies over Ukraine. I find this to be the most interesting circumstance whereby more and more seems like this is a proxy war between the United States and Russia. Drone attack hits building in central Moscow. A Ukrainian drone attack has hit a building in Moscow, causing an explosion that was heard across the city's business district, Russian officials have said. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said air defenses had shot down the drone with its debris falling on the city's expo center. It said that after activating the city's air defense systems, the drone had changed its flight path, falling on a non-residential building on the Krasnopresneskaya embankment, an area of Moscow which hosts a number of government buildings. The Russian Defense Ministry said the debris had not caused the fire, while Mr. Sobyanin said the drone had caused no significant damage to the building. Until earlier this year, Moscow remained untouched by the war in Ukraine, but in recent months has been targeted by drone strikes. Ukrainian President Zelensky said at the time that the war was returning to the territory of Russia and that this was an inevitable, natural and absolutely fair process. Hours before the latest strike in Moscow, a Ukrainian sea drone was destroyed during an attempted attack on Russia's naval fleet in the Black Sea, Russia's defense ministry said. Zelensky is towing a very fine line. His priorities should be for the Ukrainian citizens and opening dialogue with Russia to find a peaceful solution to this circumstance would be a better option as opposed to being the puppets for the NATO and the Western alliances. Please like, share and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Thank you. Private jet crashes onto Malaysian highway, killing 10. A private jet has crashed into a car and a motorbike on a highway in Malaysia, killing at least 10 people, police say. All 8 people on the aircraft died along with 2 motorists on the ground. The jet exploded into a fireball on impact, with thick black smoke seen rising from the side. Video clips from the scene showed. It was travelling from the resort island of Langkawi to Selangor, west of the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Officials said the Beechcraft Model 390 aircraft had lost contact with the air traffic control tower before it crashed on Tuesday. Malaysia's Civil Aviation Authority said an initial investigation showed the plane had been cleared for takeoff and that the 2 pilots were experienced. Investigators are working to find the plane's black box or flight data recorder. For now, we cannot say what was the cause of the crash since investigations are underway, Mr. Lok said. This is a very unfortunate event. Let's all pray for the families that have lost loved ones in this crash. Asian shares head for third week of losses on China woes, US rates. Sydney. Asian markets were trying to find a firmer footing on Friday after a rough week hammered by concerns about China's ailing economy and fears of US rates staying higher for longer as long-term bonds yields surged. MSCI Broadest Index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan were up 0.1% after hitting a 9th-month low the session before. It was, however, headed for the weekly loss of 2.8%, the third straight week of declines. Data earlier on Friday showed Japan's core inflation slowed in July, a result that is likely to support market wagers that a Bank of Japan is in no hurry to phase out monetary easing anytime soon. Adding to concerns of deepening crisis in China's property market, China Evergrande, one of the country's biggest real estate developers, on Thursday filed for protection from creditors in a US bankruptcy court. China's stocks have shed 10% from their highs in January as dismal economic data laid bare the stuttering post-pandemic recovery, with investors remaining unimpressed with just piecemeal support measures from policymakers. At the start of the year, China's economy was powering ahead, but the picture has gradually worsened since and now looks quite bleak, says Jonas Glotterman, Deputy Chief Market Economist at Capital Economics. The Atlanta Federal Reserve's GDP Now forecast model suggests the US economy is likely to grow at a 5.8 annualized rate in the third quarter, up from previous forecasts of 5%. In currency markets, the dollar lost some of its shine on Friday but still managed to hold recent gains after hitting a 6-week top. The euro wallowed near its 5-week low at $1.0876, down 0.6% for the week, while the risk-sensitive Australian dollar broke a key support level overnight and was last at 0.6417. Elsewhere, oil prices were marginally higher. Brent crude futures rose 0.1% at $84.24 per barrel, and US West Texas Intermediate crude futures also increased 0.3% to $80.64. Looks like all the enthusiasm about China's reopening did not pan out as many economists as expected, and now everyone is feeling the aftershock of a slow recovery in China. And despite the US is doing very well, this does not bode well for the rest of the world and the economies around the world, simply because majority of capital now is running away to the US dollar, considering the US dollar is strengthening and every other currency is weakening. There doesn't seem to be a solution in sight, besides a worldwide reset of the whole economic status quo. China's Evergrande files for protection in US court as part of a $32 billion debt overhaul. Hong Kong and New York. Embattled developer China's Evergrande Group has filed for protection from creditors in the US bankruptcy court as part of its debt restructuring process, as anxiety grows over China's worsening property crisis and a weakening economy. The company sought protection under Chapter 15 of the US Bankruptcy Code, which shields non-US companies that are undergoing restructuring from creditors that hope to sue them or tie up assets in the United States. The filing is procedural in nature, but the world's most indebted property developer with more than $300 billion in liabilities has to do it as a part of a restructuring process under US law, two people familiar with the matter said. The developer's offshore debt restructuring involves a total of $31.7 billion, which includes bonds, collaterals, and repurchase obligations. Once China's top-selling developer, Evergrande has become the poster child of the country's unprecedented debt crisis in the property sector, which accounts for roughly a quarter of the economy after slipping into a liquidity crisis in mid-2021. A major Chinese asset manager missed repayment obligations on some investment products and warned of a liquidity crisis, while Country Garden, the country's largest private developer, has become the latest to flag a stifling liquidity crunch. All of this comes at a time when property investment, home sales, and new constructions have contracted for more than a year. In a filing in the Manhattan Bankruptcy Court, Evergrande said that it was seeking recognition of restructuring talks underway in Hong Kong, the Cayman Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. The company proposed scheduling a Chapter 15 recognition hearing for September 20th. Trading in China's Evergrande shares has been suspended since March 2022. Shares of Evergrande Service plunged more than 12%, while China's Evergrande New Energy Vehicle Group dropped by 8% on Friday. Doesn't seem like China is going to be getting out of this problem anytime soon, and the rest of the world seems to have their hopes hampered by the fact that they were hoping China would stimulate their economy by printing more money. Seems like none of this is going to be happening, so we'll just have to wait and see how this whole circumstance plays out Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to play out as most people expect. Most likely what's going to happen is most currencies are going to be devalued due to the fact that governments are just going to print money and inflate the current monetary system to infinity and beyond in order to try to save the economy, which is just going to make things worse. Malaysian economic growth weakens in nearly 2 years as exports fall. Kuala Lumpur. Malaysia's economic growth hit its lowest level in nearly 2 years in the second quarter due to sliding exports and global slowdown, prompting the central bank on Friday to warn that full year's growth will come in at the lower end of its previous forecast. Malaysia's export-oriented economy is dependent on global growth, which is facing mounting fears of recession. A weak ringgit currency and a slowdown in China, Malaysia's main trading partner, are also weighing on the economy. Bank Negara Malaysia also said the country's full-year economic expansion will come in at a lower end of the 4% to 5% range it had forecast earlier. The weak external demand is expected to weigh on near-term growth. The economy is facing downside risk stemming from weaker than expected global growth and a deeper or longer than expected technology down cycle, Governor Abdul Rashid Ghaffur told a news conference. Other data on Friday showed Malaysia's exports in July slumped 13.1% from a year earlier, much more than economists forecast for 11.3% drop. Imports also fell more than expected. Malaysia is also facing pressure from the ringgit, which is the worst performing currency in Southeast Asia this year. Bank Negara Malaysia has said it would intervene in the foreign exchange market to stabilize the ringgit, which has dropped over 5% against the US dollar this year. The central bank last month kept benchmark interest rates unchanged due to moderating growth and easing inflation, with economists saying it will likely stay on hold for the rest of the year. As long as China continues its decline, Malaysia is most likely going to be strongly affected because China is our biggest trading partner, and this is going to have drastic impact on the local economy. What seems to be happening seems like a global synchronized recession. It seems every country on earth is facing the same problems, and all these problems are being compounded by the fact that there are weather conditions that are not really helping out in the agricultural sector for many countries. Therefore, food inflation is starting to hurt the pocket for many people, and most people are now struggling to make ends meet. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a solution in sight. Bitcoin price briefly dips below 26,000, falling to a 2-month low. The price of Bitcoin fell around 8% in just 10 minutes on August 7, down to levels not seen since June 20th. The price of Bitcoin fell around 8% in a span of 10 minutes, causing the cryptocurrency to dip well under 26,000 before partially recovering. Initial reaction from X, the Twitter community, have pegged the price drops to reports that SpaceX wrote down the value of BTC it previously acquired by $373 million and sold the cryptocurrency, while others have pointed to China's Evergrande group filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New York. The fall has taken Bitcoin market cap below 500 billion for the first time since June 16 and hit lows not seen since June 20th. Cryptocurrency analyst Will Clemente noted that Bitcoin saw the largest single-day increase in BTC implied volatility this year. Looks like no market is being spared by the current downturn that's happening. This is reminiscent of the 2008 financial crisis, and there seems to be some discrepancy in the way data is being reported. Every country and every economic on financial news that is coming out is showing that the economies around the world are not doing very well. But somehow, every economy seems to have a 3, 4, 5% growth. There seems to be a very big disconnect. How is it that every economic data seems to show that everything is not doing well, everything is crashing, inflation is going up, but somehow there is economic growth? In my opinion, the growth that's happening is the monetary growth. All these numbers are based on money that is being printed out of thin air. It clearly seems like most economists and central bankers and governments around the world are keen on making sure that the general population is unaware that there is actually a contraction happening in the world, and the world's economy is actually on a decline and is actually contracting. Unfortunately, these numbers of 4%, 5% growth seems to cloud people's judgment on the simple fact that economies everywhere is not improving, sales are dropping across the board, companies are shutting down and laying off staff, but somehow employment is up. There can only be one explanation: data manipulation. That's it for today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.